Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, May 19th. And so what's going on here? Well, I was cleaning. I have today off, so today is a holiday here in Canada. And so I said, today is my day. I am going to clean up the layout room because it was brutal. Like, this is just a hot mess down here. And so I thought, okay, I'll clean up the space and get a day to myself to make some progress on stuff. And I started thinking about the fact that it's a dreary day, can't be outside, and I can't be alone in terms of people who are just hanging out, maybe by themselves, and sometimes it's nice to get a bit of company. So I thought to myself, why don't I see as a challenge how quickly I can put together a setup and maybe just stream, and so that there is other people in the chat to spend some time with, a little bit of company. And likewise, if you guys are interested and you're working on something as well, we can throw this on. We can share what your projects are. I'm sharing what my projects are. So this is just an impromptu, unplanned, off-the-cuff transmission from my basement as I'm working through some of the boring little projects that are making up the railroad. I see a bunch of people already jumped into the chat, which is super cool. Silver Scratch World is there. Trackside Mike, how you doing? Be in Ironwood, the Closet Branch, I Run Games. So yeah, hello you guys. Again, this isn't meant to be scheduled. This isn't meant to be high production value. It's just a matter of saying, hey, listen, if somebody else out there is hanging out and they just want some company, well, here it is. A couple technical things. I'm going to look in the chat that you guys can hear me okay. Again, throwing this together, not a lot of testing. Oh, and hey, there's the Closet Branch just jumped in. In terms of what I'm going to be working on today, on the last live stream that I did, I was working on the retaining walls that are behind me around Union Station. And then just this past week I finished up a little bit of the retaining walls that are on the Hamilton side of the layout. And so I just have a few of really just one of these sections left to do. And it took a bit of time because it's the one section that has a bridge coming off of it. So I just couldn't build up sort of, the face of it without thinking about what I was going to be doing with how the bridge set up and an abutment and such. Basically, I just overthought the whole thing and have been sitting on it for a number of weeks. But I'm finally ready to do a little bit of detail work on it. So I thought, hey, you know what? I will put together that laser cut wood. I'll clean up the styrofoam, add a few details, and just glue this thing together. Because once that's on the layout, that is, I think, all of the modular sections prepared. Certainly not done, but prepared. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on today. Just kind of pushing through that for the next hour or so, and talking to you guys. Let me see who's in here right now. Glenn Power Williams, good morning to you. Oh, and good. The audio and video is working. So yeah, let me just pop over to what I've got going on here. And so this looks fairly similar to the things I did on the Third Rail Thursday, and I'm just doing the same stuff here. I'm just putting together a few of these last little scraps of laser cut wood. I'll apply them to the block. I had to do a little bit of drywall compound on that this morning, and I hope it dries fairly quickly. Because these were scraps I put together and there was lots of seams and such, so not perfect. So I'll get these put together. I have to trim little bits of wood to put together sort of the, I don't even know what we want to call this, but the parts of this that basically are the detail parts. And then I've got a couple little bits of paper and such. So that's where we're at. Dan's Locomotive Shed, never caught a live stream. It's nearly 4 p.m. here in Ireland. Well, good morning to you, our good friends in Ireland. So yeah, let me start thinking about what I want to do with this. So I need to apply this to the foam but I think I'm going to put together the details first. Good morning there as well, Chris Scott. What are we working on? We are just doing anything to fill some time. I just sort of started the video up and just said to people, listen, this is nothing more than a hangout. Unplanned, unscripted, maybe disappears at the end. Maybe disappears at the end of whatever the stream for a little while. It's not meant to be anything more than just company for people that maybe don't have anything to do right now or are working on their own projects, and it's nice to have, you know, some background noise or a background person, because I know sometimes when I'm down here, you can go hours working on something and you haven't spoken a word, and maybe outside of music, you haven't had any real contact with anybody. Anyway, let's pop into this project and sort of get going on a few things. So in terms of the makeup of this, there is a space between these two bridge abutments, or sort of railing abutments, and that represents the area where the bridge is going to be coming off the face of this. So if this bottle of Weld Bond is the bridge comes out like that. And so this was a piece I had to do quite a bit of thinking about, because I wanted to make sure that I understood how big the bridge was going to be before I finished that up. So yeah, that's where I'm starting with this today, and I want to get this onto the face of this, but I can see that this drywall compound isn't quite dry yet. So I think what I'll do is I'll just start putting the details onto this, and that'll hopefully be dry soon enough. Now I had cut some different lengths of these little bits of wood here, and I finally figured out which size was appropriate. So I'm going to do a bit of trimming with that first and get these sorted out, and then start putting this whole thing together. I might not have enough wood here tonight or this morning. Good morning to you, Paul Stamp. Finger Lake Railroad. Model railroading can certainly be a solitary hobby if you don't seek out ways to connect with others. Agreed. One of the things that I have planned for next Saturday is I'm going to Burlington, because the Burlington Model Railroad Society, I think they are, have a bit of an open house, and someone from that club said, hey, you should come out, and so absolutely. The hobby being solitary, it's interesting. At the end of a workday, if I have the energy to come down here, a lot of times I prefer it to be solitary. Just unwind, get your mind all cleared out. But then this is a long weekend here in Canada, or at least in Ontario. And it's like, wow, I've spent a lot of time not speaking to anybody, so this is a great opportunity for me to say some words. And again, if you guys are doing something similar, then it makes sense to hang out and just kill some time. Okay, so I would typically put this on to the face of the styrofoam and glue it down, but I think what I'll do is I'll live on the edge here and try to join these seams together without a backing, with just a little bit of super glue. This is the stuff I use quite a bit here. This extra thin super glue, which will put your fingers together faster than you can imagine because it goes everywhere. But I'm just going to use this and just a couple dots and see if I can't get those two sections of wood to join up. Glenn Power Williams, you should also check out the York Model Railroad Club next weekend, as they're going to be part of the Open Doors Toronto. Oh, that's awesome. I will, when we finish up here this morning, I'm going to take a look at that. I'm not sure how much of the weekend time belongs to me, but for sure I'd like to see them. So let's see if that just soaks into the wood and joins these two little pieces, or if it pulls through right onto the workbench, onto my cutting mat here. Give that a... Oh, look at that. I don't think it stuck to the workbench. Ha! Trackside Mike, if I get paint on your beloved's hardwood floors, that is the definition of living on the edge. Yes, I can't believe I have carpet in this room, and I paint things and I don't put drop sheets down. I have this wild arrogance that I'll never have a drip of paint hit the floor. All right, so that bonded up well enough. So then I'm going to start putting some of these rails on. Now, so the way that these sections work is that the last set of retaining wall has a lip that conceals, that'll overlap sort of like that, so that when I put these all together, the seams are less visible, and that's the ultimate goal. So I have marked out that I know this next little cross piece needs to start at a line, which is why, if you're asking why I'm setting it back this much, I took a look at it beforehand and got it measured up. Give that a couple seconds to dry. Silver scratch build. I spend around 8 to 10 hours a day now painting miniatures. Some days I'll make my basing compound for my miniatures. Yeah, you know, one of the things that I'm working on, I'm going to let that dry. One of the things that I'm fighting with right now is I'm putting the fascia around the layout. It's one of those milestones I'd like to have behind me, and it looks really good, and it lets me finish up getting sort of my switches and wiring put in place. But wrestling an 8-foot length of masonite and curving it by yourself has been less than my desired way to spend free time. And of course I don't take any of the trains off the layout or clean anything up. Again, I'm just arrogant and assume that, oh, I won't have any problems. And so the board will let go and it'll shoot something across the room. So touch wood, I haven't had any, haven't damaged anything yet. But certainly it's not something that I would ever record because it would probably stress most of the people out. It's a bit of a hot mess down here when I'm not doing stuff in front of a camera. Okay, I think that's taken. Let's get back to putting this together. What do we got here? Chris Scott. I might get an N Scale Rapido FP9A, but the problem is I don't know if I want to repaint it or keep it. Any suggestions? Because I'm still new to model railroading and I need advice from you. If I was going to give any advice, I would not leap into repainting a locomotive quite yet. It is fairly stressful, and I think you have to be able to admit failure if that your first go round might not be the best go round. If you can find substitute locomotives, like you can get cheap F units, lifelike F units, pretty readily. And if you can find something like that, then that gives you an opportunity to do a little bit of testing. I think, my mind, that would be better to see if you actually want to paint or you've got the patience to paint. Yeah, as Paul Stamp is saying, practice on cheap stuff first. Absolutely. I did a project. I felt fairly confident about repainting a locomotive, and I certainly did it more than once. I did a bunch of test units, and then when I went for the real thing, I still made some mistakes, and I had to restrip those and do it a last time. And so I probably, you know, did about, oh, I don't know, 5 or 7 different takes trying to do the same thing until I finally got one that worked. Okay, let me see. I'm short one of these. 1 second. Let me just jump away and see if I can't find something. Okay, I think I found one more strip. Well, it's not going to be enough, but it gets us closer. My first custom paint job loco, I ran through 4 ruined shells. Yeah. When I see people advertising for custom locomotive weathering and such, those people have the confidence of a legion, because there's no way that I would want to do that professionally with someone else's equipment. So, all right, so that, I just tacked that one end so that I can actually bend this until it's where I need it to be. So I'm going to tack this edge over here. And I didn't quite tack it in the right place. Oh, that doesn't matter, that's underneath. Okay. So I made a little goof, and there's a gap there, but that's literally the one spot where the bridge is sitting in front of it. So no harm, no foul there. And so this one has to go on to the next one. So I don't have enough to finish this side, but I'm not going to sweat that detail too much right now. Okay. Start thinking about putting this onto the face of this now. Which I'm going to put on just about like that. And I think I'm going to use a combination of weld bond and a bit of super glue. I'm going to use the weld bond as the proper adhesive, and I'm going to use the super glue as just a bit of a tack. That said, what we've sort of seen before is that the super glue will erode and melt the foam, so I've got to be a little bit careful with that. A little bit of technique involved there. All right, a little cup, some glue. Do I got a paintbrush? I do have a little bit of a paintbrush handy, and maybe just a stir stick or something to move that around. I actually found 2 more strips, and I thought I'll just show you these really briefly. So when I'm using my laser cutter, there are certain shapes that I'm cutting out for, like these bridge abutments and such, and they've got the arch pathways and such in them, and there is a lot of waste, or in my mind there's a lot of waste. So one of the things I've been doing is that anytime I have an offcut of the plywood left, I've got a laser cutting procedure set up that allows me to sort of just pull off 1 or 2 or 3 strips of what potentially is sidewalk. And some of it has a little bit of a boulevard in it as well. And so once I'm done making some cuts, and if I remember, I just realign the laser, I open up one of these very simple like sidewalk cuts and run it, and a few minutes later, sidewalk's done, and now I can scrap the remaining plywood. That way it's just not quite so much waste. Let me see. I don't know if you can see. So that's just a little sidewalk, and it's got a little curbing on it. And then the other one is sidewalk, and you can see there's a space here, so I can fill it up with ground foam to create sort of a grassy boulevard. Okay. Paul Stamp, I really enjoy custom painting now, but definitely don't have the confidence to do it on someone else's equipment. Oh, for goodness sakes, no. Holy mackerel. No, no. At least if I screw up my own stuff, you know, I can blame myself. Yeah. Chris, yeah. You can all, Chris, for what it's worth, you can also get onto some online classifieds, be it Facebook Marketplace, whatever, and you will find some really good deals on equipment that people, you know, use the term as is. So from anyone who's not familiar with the national holidays that we have here, this is technically the Victoria Day weekend. I think Mike mentioned that earlier in the chat, and that was originally a holiday to celebrate the late Queen Victoria. And it has certainly shifted its meaning quite a bit, and we now colloquially refer to this as the May 24 weekend. It usually falls near or on May 24th, and of course 24 has nothing to do with the date, it has everything to do with a case of beer. And so a lot of times this is the first or near the first weekend that it's you can go outside with maybe just a t-shirt on and enjoy yourself. And so right now today there are hundreds of thousands of people sort of freezing to death waterside or throwing off fireworks and having the odd beverage to make the day go a little smoother. So for anyone out there that is from this part of the world, happy Victoria weekend to you. So you can probably see that that has already, it warps up. So as soon as the glue gets on there, it goes from flat and straight to not flat and straight. So I've got this one in the right place, and I'm just going to add the smallest amount of super glue just to tack that. Let that set up before I get to the next parts to get them sort of installed. Folks in the UK know this day as the current monarch's official birthday. Well, bugger, that didn't work. We'll do that again. Get that set just a little bit further over. Okay, let that dry for just a second. All right, so we're getting there. Good morning, N Scale Train Boy. Oh, didn't fall off that time. Oh my goodness, yeah. To Paul Stamp's comment, the other thing that happens on the May 2-4 weekend here is that people go camping. And it is an all-out, drag-out, bloody-knuckle fight to try to find a campsite. And it was certainly a popular thing, you know, in the past, but in more recent years, it has now become very, very popular. It's one of the last things that you can do for very cheap to have a great time. So get a campsite, go out, sneak some beverages into some of the parks and have a good time. But yeah, to the point, you will not find a campsite. Like if you thought about this weekend on a Friday saying, hey, maybe we should go camping this weekend, no chance. As soon as the campsites open up with an online booking system, it's like Ticketmaster for a concert. They are gone very quickly. And I agree with you, Mike. It's way too cold to camp this weekend, but we're old. Well, first of all, good morning, David. I just got myself caught up on your last few videos. Extremely impressed by the combination of laser, SPS foam, hot wire cutter. I appreciate that. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, I wanted some retaining walls, a lot of retaining walls, and I just couldn't figure out a way to make that work in terms of cost. You know, I know that some people got some 3D printed stuff and there's some kits, but it was going to be prohibitive, so I was trying to figure out how I can do this with the materials at hand. And, you know, certainly owe a lot of credit to the wargaming guys because, you know, they are endlessly obsessed with trying to make the foam into anything and everything. And they do a great job of it. And so I've seen a lot of this material used in that regard to build enormous castles and such. And so it made a lot of sense just to sort of dive into it and use it in this case. What sort of laser do you have? Okay, so I have forgotten the name and it wouldn't be easy for me to get, but I think the brand name is Afero or something like that. Steve's Trains did a little review on this laser about 2 or 3 years ago, and he had a coupon code. And so I just went for it and bought one. And the laser head, or the diode that I got, is a cutting and etching head. Now, I made a mistake. That actually wasn't what I wanted. The laser I wanted was a diode cutting laser, but it served me very well. And the cutting for like this plywood, this is 1.5 millimeter plywood. It does an excellent job of that. No problem, fairly quick. The one thing I do cut with it is quite a bit is you can cut foam core with it, which is nice if you're going to mock something up. And I do a lot of Bristol board actually. So I had made some stencils for some buildings for a backdrop, and I just quickly cut it with the laser, and it's fast and it's super accurate. And it's perhaps one of my more favorite things. The second thing is because I want to like board up little windows and maybe make some skids, the thickness of cardboard, cereal box, or even Bristol board is like planks. And so I can just sit there and cut, let's say, a fence out of a piece of Bristol board, fence boards, and it's very fast. It may not be super durable, but it's actually fairly scale. And so at this point, I have a 3D printer, which I love using. I like designing for it. And I have the laser cutter, and I would say that I've gotten far greater utility out of a laser than I've ever gotten out of my 3D printer. It's made a lot of difference for how I approach a lot of my projects. And it's really opened up a lot of possibilities because it just, it replaces like a dimensional plastic, that sort of stuff. And because it's working for me when I'm not working, so I set it up and I go do something and I come back down and pick up all my cut pieces, it's been probably the single most important tool that I've added to my war chest of things that I play with. Okay, let's see here. N Scale Train Boy was near the border, very good. Little Britain, I've camped in -15s. There's only insufficiently prepared. How do you find laser versus 3D printing? David Locum, yeah, I'll go back to you in a second there, Mike. Yes. Zorp, I don't know how to say his name, is his channel defies logic for the size and magnitude of projects that he takes on. Okay, I think I'm going to, yeah. I'm going to add in the last little bit over here. So this is too big because, and that's perfectly fine, because I still need to trim the foam and everything, so I'll make a clean cut of that when I'm all done. This is just sort of filling in right now. And same thing goes for this piece here, so I can just put that in. Okay. Just going to trim that off outside of the camera's view. Let's see. Timothy Johnson, with the laser cutter, do you have to worry about smokes and fumes? Yes. Yes, you do. I mean, so there's a difference between smoke and fumes, right? When I'm cutting Bristol board, I've got a little window that's opened up right beside where the cutter is, and it's really not a big deal. It's about the same as, let's say, having a candle that's sort of lousy in the room. That's okay. When I'm cutting the plywood, it does create smoke, and having a fan by a window to exhaust, it's great. Putting it outside's even better. I did some experiments last year where I cut, or the year before, where I cut styrene with it, and it will. And I'm confident that that created toxic clouds in the house. Now, I wasn't there, but definitely you'd come in and you would be like an instant headache. So yes, when I'm using the laser cutter, there's no one else around in the house, the windows are open, and with wood and paper, I consider that just to be smoke. That may be an ignorant take, but I set up a fan, I open a window, and really it doesn't penetrate the house at all. But if somebody's home, yeah, I lay off using the laser cutter for sure. It's just really not worth it at this point. Yeah, N Scale Train Boy, again, I really like having the laser cutter. It's been a great tool. I think the only thing that I would mention to people is that there is a curve to learning it, and you need to also be able to learn how to make your own designs and patterns. And I think sometimes that's a bit of a blind spot that people aren't aware of, is that it is an amazing tool, but it's like buying a skill saw and saying, now I can build a house. I have a fairly extensive background in two-dimensional design and such, and so it translates very easily for me to laser cutting patterns, but that's also something you have to learn. And if you're going to be drawing, I use Adobe Illustrator, which is expensive. It's part of a platform that I use because of work, but there's a program called Inkscape that you could probably get a hold of that would do a good job of creating vector diagrams for creating the templates you need to use. And then maybe the second thing I should mention is that with my particular laser cutter, it's headless, meaning it's dumb. It's a platform, it's like a plotter, it's got the laser, that's great, but you need to hook it to your laptop to run it, and what you also need to do is have the software to run it. The program that I have a subscription to is called Lightburn. It sets me back like $60 to $80 a year, which is fine, that's fine, but I think, you know, it can sort of get frustrating that you have to subscribe to everything. So you get a laser cutter, an entry-level hobbyist one will run you about maybe $300, and it will pay for itself. Like mine has easily paid for itself. Then you get the software, and then to run it, so in this case I use Lightburn, and then you get into a situation where it's like you also need to get software in order to draw your patterns. So I certainly don't want to be discouraging about it because I still love doing it. It's just a matter of it isn't the be all and end all. Like you just don't pick one up and it works for you. No differently than 3D printing. It works very much the same like that. Is that just because you have the printer doesn't mean you're in good shape to start printing. Oh, N Scale Train Boy, then you're all set. You know what, I didn't, so to your comment about not knowing if I should use Lightburn, I didn't do a lot of research. It was what was recommended, and I just went for it. I didn't want to fuss too much about it. Okay, and I will add, well, wait a second, I could add that now, couldn't I? No, I'm going to wait to add that when the other one's in place. So I've got all the wood in place, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the cardboard details that I'd made. Little Britain, Chandwell, a UK N Scale guy, uses Inkscape which is free and more than adequate. Yeah, he's done, I think his name is Michael. He has done a beautiful job of leaning into the hobby in a, I'm not going to say a different way, but he uses full color printer, full color printouts. I think he's got a Cricut, but he also uses scalpels to cut it out, and he designs all of his artwork in Inkscape. So it is much like GIMP. If you need a Photoshop replacement, it's more than adequate. Like any other tool, I mean, he has spent some time learning it. The things that he produces are, you know, beautiful. And because he's using photographic images scaled and printed, and he's making patterns, the colors and the dimensions of everything he builds is hyper realistic looking. It's a less common approach. The idea about like, it's almost like paper buildings. It would be paper buildings, but such a talented modeler, a really nice channel, and a beautiful railroad. Like he's a very talented individual, and if none of you have seen it, it's worth checking out because his approach isn't maybe the same as we see all the time, and it just offers a nice perspective. Good morning, Approach Medium. Yeah, I was saying at the beginning of this stream that I was realizing that it was a lazy Monday here, and if anyone else was sort of in their basement or their layout room, sort of poking along, and were feeling maybe a bit lonely, that this was the place to be. I was going to just start a live stream, no format, no real approach, no theme, just me sitting in this little studio space and working on my projects, so that if anyone else that's just sort of fumbling about with things that they're working on could join in for some conversation and just hang out. So yeah. Working from home, yeah. I'm fortunate enough that I get to work at home 1 or 2 days a week, but my home office is not accessible to the layout room, and it's not a good combination because I would disappear down here pretty much forever. Scamping around, love the content, excited to continue following this new layout. Thank you very much. You know, second, third, or fourth time's the charm. I've been enjoying this round of the layout. Oh, that's a weird little cut. Good morning, HA. Ah, yes. Yeah, I can't manage to have the... I know myself well enough to say that I couldn't have my layout and my office in the same space. I know that Chris from Go Via or Go Home, for better or for worse, for sure, works from home, I think 95% of the time, and his layout literally runs through his office. I don't understand how he manages to have any self-control in that regard. You know, one of the benefits, certainly working from home is amazing, and I appreciate it. Probably the one thing that does work out well is I can set up like a 3D print, let it go, and then come back down to the basement and check on it. So that's one of the nice benefits, that I can set up jobs and queue things and run back and forth to it. But my goodness, if it was in the same space, I wouldn't get anything done. So in case you're tuning in, workplace, I prioritize your needs. I didn't realize that Heath, so Human City, I didn't realize that was also his office. I thought that was just his layout room. Oh my goodness. Again, congratulations, Heath. You know, you've got resolve. So for anyone who's wondering, these little black details are just bits of Bristol board that I also cut with a laser. And so when I paint this, I want to have a few more little visual details. Let me give you an example here. So this is, let's see if I get this. This is probably the paint job that I'm going to start with. This is a lot of sponging and then some dirty washes. And I'm really happy with the concrete look of this. I just wanted to add in some additional little details just to give it a little more visual appeal. I like the idea of layering on the different looks. And so this, I hope, we'll make it more interesting. There is a lot of walls on this layout, and so this is going to, these little details will hopefully just make this look a little more interesting, so when it's done, it's really textured looking. All right, let me put that back. Approach medium, my whole job is in train related. You're fascinating. There's going to need to be some more deep dives on learning about what you're up to. All right, I need to add a few more details up here, and I forget what I had done originally. Ah, yes. That covers up that seam very nicely. Paul Stamp, I can't imagine having an office in my layout room. I mean, full confession, like I'm sitting at a very sizable table here. This is a folding table I bought off of Facebook Marketplace. It came out of like an Oddfellows basement, like it's like we used to have like those roast beef dinners at. And I cut it down so it's like 50 inches long. It's got folding legs so I can put it away, and my goodness, I could set up an entire office right here. I could do my entire job from this spot, and I could spin around and work on the layout, and I'm actively not doing that because the distraction would be too great. And then to get on a Zoom call or a Teams call and say, like, where are you? And then try to explain that away, I don't think it'd be worth it. That said, I have every intention that we get close to, let's say, the Christmas break and things slow down, that I could very easily move down here because there'd be less burden and less people around to try to interact with. It'd be easier for me to get distracted and not cause problems for other people. All right, let's get back to this thing. Famine Studios, I finally caught a live. Hell yeah. Yeah, well, hell yeah, you're here. Amazing. So for anyone who's, I'll just keep reiterating this, but for anyone who's joined in, when I kicked this thing off, I was saying, or explaining to the group of people here that this is just a completely unscheduled jump on, do a live stream. One of the challenges that I set for myself was how easily and how quickly could I get something set up that I could run. And then secondly, On the Thursday night, Third Rail Thursdays, I try to do something thematic and have a planned show, if you want to call it that. But I also think that let me start again. But one of the things that I have found is that when I'm down here by myself, I put on a bunch of different live streams from different sorts of creators, and I just run them in the background. And so it feels like I have company while I'm doing things. And I appreciate that a lot. And so I thought, well, if I do this sort of casual approach, there might be other people that find that, is comforting the word, but it's nice to have a bit of company. And depending upon basically how you guys react to this, I might make a semi-regular occurrence of probably on a Sunday morning to just jump down here, set the cameras up and go to town and work on something. As I guess you might call it community building, is that the right word? But just to be live and talk with people, a non-special, non-interesting live stream, but just a way to sort of hang out. Got these little bits of paper here. Approach medium, you like this? Approach medium likes this approach. Yeah, I mean, this has been pretty straightforward for me. Not a lot of pressure, and this is really easy. And you guys have been wonderfully communicative as well. Great to have some conversations. I would probably make a habit of maybe doing this on Sundays. Again, I'll see how people react to this and make some adjustments accordingly. Yeah. This stream has also become what I would call a bit of a confessional. People all admit they have no ability to self-regulate when it comes to not getting distracted and working on their hobbies during work hours. Okay. So I've added the arch detail. So I've added this to the face of the foam. I've got the little arch details in place. I've got these little double blocks there, and the last thing I need to add in is these little top rails, which are just a 1.5 millimeter thick little piece of Bristol board, and then trim them all up. More than this, I am looking forward to being able to work on applying some paint. I do set guidelines and rules for myself, like I need to get these blocks all done before I get into the painting, which maybe takes a bit of the joy out of it for me, but I know then when I get into the painting and the detailing and the graffiti and whatever, I don't have to look across the layout room and say, oh man, I still need to build 10 of these things. So yeah, I'll trim that off when I'm done, but let that dry first. Timothy Johnson, my biggest distraction is watching YouTube videos about model railroading. Join the club. Except sometimes there can be a pause in the action, so you can turn your head and say, oh, I better get back to what I was doing here. Good morning, James. Dundas Junction. I was talking to Chris from Go Via Go Home. I know that I saw him here a little earlier. Good morning, Chris. And I was discussing with him the fact that when his schedule was different, he used to do the Sunday brunch kit build. And that was a stream that I really enjoyed. And for the time being, he's not going to be able to get back to it just because his work schedule is inconsistent and he's busy. And so I asked him, I said, is it okay if I maybe start posting or doing little lives in a slot that you usually earmarked for yourself? And he said, yeah, go for it. So again, this might become a bit of more of a thing as time progresses. David, so you're commuting from Hamilton to Toronto. I'm hoping then you're taking the train in for that? And if not, I mean, God bless. All right, so the archways are in place. So this lower archway is where the bridge is going to come off. And I don't have my original drawings with me, and I just got into it, and I may have put this rail in the wrong place. Luckily, I've made mistakes before, and I know how to take that off. It's just super glue, so you can sand it. But I think that basically now catches all of it. So this area here, between the two railing areas, is where the bridge will connect. I will trim this out with a razor saw and a knife depending upon how the bridge sits on this abutment. And this is the last of the walls that I have in place. I think I won't worry about this little end here. I need to get the other piece out and I need to clear my desk to do it. But I think probably what I should do now is just add a little bit of decay to the bottom of this wall. So let me just make a bit of a quick cleanup here. Bear with me, talk amongst yourselves while I clear a little bit of an area, because we're going to get into the toxic stuff. This is my little collection of cardboard bittens that I use. Okay, I'll put that over here. Okay, and I've got my goof off. And, oh, actually, you know what I'll do is I'm going to use the the tinfoil ball, and I'm going to just add a few little bits of texture to this thing to show that it's not perfect. just a little bit. Let's see if I can't catch the light here. No, I can't. This is what I did the last Thursday stream, was I just sort of went around and added a bit of texture. I know that, again, Chris Govia, he's built an impressive highway overpass for his layout, and I can't take credit for this. This is from the tabletop guys. But he did the same thing, and it is really nice. It transforms things quite a bit. All right, let's see what we're going to do here. David, yes, go train. Thankfully, I couldn't be paid enough to go drive in every day. Well, I mean, I was assuming, but I didn't want to get ahead of myself. So I think, so if there's a bridge here, there's not going to be a lot of deterioration in this area. So maybe I'll kind of mess up these two spots a little bit. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to put a bit of the goof off right straight out of the tin here. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see if we can see it eating its way through. There, we're just distressing the concrete in real time here. Do I want to do the same? So I think I'll just put a couple straight shots over here, like that, and then I will brush on some. Yeah, that looks good. So you can start to see that's eroding away. And again, I did this on the live stream a few weeks ago, so this isn't anything wildly different than what I did before, but it's a great way to pass the time this morning, and this will be the end of it. I suppose I could add a little bit of rebar in that one section. Let's get a little more put on here, though. I'm just going to put a little bit in this cup. So I've just put a little bit of the Goo Gone in this cup. I'm going to throw these out. I go into the dollar store and I buy just drinking glasses, and then I trim them to whatever I need. Rather than buy little artist cup and trim them or clean them all the time. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe a little bit more on the other end there. So you can see it's eating its way through over there. So the styrofoam ball, because it puts a little bit of a dimple, then the goof off really attacks it. Same thing there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get out some screen, and I'm going to put just a touch of screen into a couple of these spots to try to make an exposed rebar. Let's catch up here. So foil ball is a game changer for texturing XPS foam. Yes, absolutely. So much of the videos that I watched during the pandemic were all of the tabletop wargaming guys using styrofoam, and between a Proxxon cutter, utility knives, and a styrofoam ball, they created entire worlds, and it was amazing. N Scale Train Boy, I assume the foam is representing concrete, correct? Yes, that's right. These are meant to be concrete areas. So I am... So this layout is inspired by three areas in southwestern Ontario, which is Toronto's Union Station, Aldershot Station, which is one that's near and dear to my heart, and then Hamilton, which is another major city close to me. Everything is like an hour away, and it is the passenger corridor, which is why I like it. This layout is not a faithful representation of those areas by any means. It is just a jumping off point, and it lets me design a layout that is plausible, and then I just kind of run away from there and do my own thing, like wrecking it basically. But in this area, southwestern Ontario for sure, we are surprisingly well known for something called brutalist architecture, which is basically we just fill up plywood boxes full of concrete and pull the plywood away. You know, no beautiful carved marble statuary or anything like that. It is like the worst version of the Roman Empire you could possibly design, and it's called brutalism. It is functional, it is fast, and it is oppressive. So for all the retaining walls, I wanted to do concrete. So yes, this is going to be concrete after concrete after concrete throughout this entire layout. I've seen a similar effect done with water mister and creme brulee butane torch. Ah, yes. That makes perfect sense. N Scale Train Boy. Yes, let me see if I can find... to Timothy Johnson. What is the liquid you're putting on? Oh. Goof off. This, let's be perfectly clear, it's got 2 MDS warnings, which is it will burst into flames and it is poison. It has xylene in it, and I would tell you that if it weren't for the live stream, I would be wearing my organic chemical mask right now. I'm trying to be, there's a bit of a cross breeze in here, which is fine. This stuff is muy bad, not good stuff, but it works. Okay, let's find, I thought I had that little bit of mesh laying around here. Let me get some, be right back. Okay, I've got a bit of aluminum screen here, and so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it into some of these holes. This is something I've done before, but I'll do it again here. So I've got a hole here that I'm going to try to put a bit of mesh in. So this is the spot where I'm going to put the mesh, the first little piece here. And this is something I did before, which is that I'm going to just quickly cut around it with my X-Acto knife. Because I'm going to add a bit more of the goof off, and that little knife line will stop it from traveling outside of the cut mark. So that's now eating its way through. I'm going to pop that in there. And now it's just sinking in right into it. So it's literally becoming exposed rebar. And I think I'll put some just over here as well. So certainly for N Scale Train Guy, the brutalist architecture has clearly touched a nerve. I have a background in fine art and art history, and so we studied brutalism, and for sure we're famous for it. It's not that it's sometimes, and in some places it's some of the finest examples of it in the world. It's sort of like bragging about being the best place for the worst weather. So I think what I'll do is I will try to put one more little piece right in here. Well, I know you're not angry. I don't think that's too bad. Little Britain, Manchester has some pretty good ugly examples as well. For any of the Southwestern Ontario Torontonian people, I went to school at York University in North York, and there was rumors that the architecture was meant to be tank accessible because it was built in the 60s and 70s, and so it was just long paths of concrete archways, and the buildings just poured. I mean, arguably, I think the CN Tower is an excellent example of brutalist architecture. That for the longest time, it was the largest freestanding tower in the world, and they built it over the course of weeks and months, non-stop. They just kept pouring concrete until the thing was about 1 kilometer tall. And it no longer holds the record for the tallest tower. I think Saudi Arabia blew that one out of the water. But we certainly love our concrete here. Wouldn't be a dystopia without brutalism. Oh God, yeah. The fall of beautiful architecture. Well, I think that is where I want this to be. This is the last one for the layout, and I will put that on. And I will now abandon worrying about the retaining walls for quite some time before I return to them to paint them. So yeah. So, with that, thank you very much for joining me this morning. You know, we've been here for about an hour and a little bit, and I know that I certainly appreciate the company. Now it won't be such a big deal for me to tidy up a little bit and return to what I'm working on here. Maybe I'll step out and take a little bit of a break. And I hope that was, you know, something that you guys were interested in as well. I mean, I'm very surprised the number of people joined in. I like the conversation quite a bit. And so, you know, I'm wondering if this is something that I should try to keep up, you know, on a Sunday morning. Just jump on here, casual, we just work on whatever. Good conversations in the chat, and a great way to fill in some time for everybody involved, me and you. So yeah, let me just take one more look at what's going on in the chat here. Thanks for giving us a place to hang out. Gotta kind of see him back to work. So you know what? What I'm going to say is that this has worked out pretty well. I think people like it, and so you know what? I'm going to make a point then of moving forward with this. I'm certainly not going to make this a weekly thing, but maybe bi-weekly. Maybe bi-weekly I'll jump on here on a Sunday morning. mid-morning, and we can all hang out and share some stories. So with that, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you next time.